can you do whatever you want to do? That's the question that some people ask, and they probably should think about a little bit more. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about free will and determinism. Some people believe in free will, and that means you believe that you can do what you want to do, maybe sometimes, as much as you can if you want. You can say what you want, maybe think what you want, feel what you want, believe what you want. It's all about making your own choices, decisions, and how you live and what you do, think, feel, everything like that. And some people kind of believe in that, and some people believe in maybe something a little bit different, and that's called the determinism. And some people kind of believe in determinism, and some people like to debate about those things. And I'm just debating on the lighting. Maybe I should fix the lighting, because I'm not sure about the lighting. I have a light here. I'm making choices all the time. I don't know how you can even debate whether or not people actually have free will or not, whether or not people have the ability to make their own choices, their own decisions in life, whether or not there is destiny or fate. What would I know? So, I'm Oatmeal and you're a potato. That's right. So, it's 2018, February 24th, Saturday. It's about 12:30, almost 12:30, near Seattle. And I'm just watching a video this morning about it with Stefan Molinex from Free Domain Radio, and I was just thinking about it because Stefan was talking to a guy who probably doesn't really believe in free will ultimately in a greater extent, in a universal extent or something like that. Like he kind of admitted to some kind of free will thing that seems to be like free will, but not ultimately, not really this a limited sense of free will that's not really free will. At least that's what the guy said to Stefan in the video that I saw this morning. And so I was thinking about that, and I would say that it's important to look back at the definition of determinism before you want to argue for it or against it. You should think a little bit about what it is. What is this idea of determinism? Some people may say that it has to do with how you don't have free will, like the opposite of free will, that everything is already maybe like decided or planned out, or like is this going to happen a certain way. Basically, fate is what determinism is all about. And some people kind of believe that no matter what you do, certain things are going to happen. And that's fate. That's fatalism. And you may feel like nothing really matters at all. Nothing matters at all because you can't change the ultimate outcome of anything. And so some people kind of describe fatalism and determinism that way. And it's a little bit depressing, I would say, and that's kind of why I'm against it, because I just don't like it. I mean, I understand how it appears to be that way at times, but I would step away from all that for a second, and I wouldn't want to get lost in thinking about that a little bit too much, because you could get lost in that world of looking at it. And when you go into that kind of world of fate, you become a victim, maybe a little bit too much, and we all can do that, especially when we're younger. The younger we are, the more dependent we are, the more helpless we are. As babies, as kids, we're not really able to determine a lot of things. But as we grow, then our ability to make our own choices grow. And then we're able to make good choices and bad choices, and then we're able to reap the results, the consequences, the rewards for those actions, for the things we do, for the things we don't do, good and bad. And we're able to experience life as we get older, and we become more independent. And that's good. It's good for so many reasons, and I'm not sure if the light is good. So I gotta think, is that better? Do I look better like that? Do I look better like that? Hold on. I need to just cut off my beard, so I gotta think about choices myself. Do I look better with a hat? Do I look better without a hat? But I really love freedom, and I talk about freedom a lot, even when I'm talking about oatmeal and everything. Like, I believe in it strongly. Now, I understand, on the other hand, how tempting it is to blame everything on fate, or destiny, but it's ultimately fate. Fatalism, where it's like you're a helpless little baby, and that it's not your fault, it's somebody else's fault, or it's the fault of God, or the universe, Mother Earth, or something. It's not my fault. It's the air, it's the chemicals, it's my DNA to some extent, and it's this, it's that, it's other things, and we have that temptation all the time. We always feel like there are excuses or reasons for stuff that happens, and to some extent that may be true. That is not always our fault, first up. But does that mean that nothing is our fault? Because if nothing is our fault, then nothing could be, how do I say, from our own doings. Like, nothing could be credited to us. Because if we can't do a bad thing, then how can we do a good thing? If you cannot blame me for the bad stuff I did, because nothing's my fault, then how can you thank me and say that I did a good thing for something I did, something I didn't do, something I said, or whatever? If you cannot be blamed, then how can you be rewarded in life? If there is no free will, then there can be no blame. Ultimately, there can be no rewards. I mean, there could be. You could still say, well, I think there could be, but what's the point? What's the point? You know, like, what's the point of having jails, you know, prisons and dungeons? Like, what's the point of trying to punish people? What's the point of heaven and hell? What's the point of nirvana, coming back, reincarnation? What's the point of school, education, if there is no ability to win and lose? Then how can you win and lose if you can't be a part of it? If you cannot figure it out on your own, if you can't decide whether or not you want to be a part of it or not, then what is it? What is it? Is it anything? If there is no free will, then what do you have? If you really, really like free will, then why try to limit it for yourself and for other people? And that's another thing we could talk about. I could talk about, you know, like, think about that. That's what I'm trying to say. So I say all that, but I still want to go back, and I haven't done this yet in this video. I need to go back to the term of determinism, of fatalism, and I want to tell you that we should reconsider the definition, the term of determinism. If you believe in determinism and in fate, that there is no free will or not enough free will or whatever, if you believe even in a little bit of fate, maybe, I would ask you to reconsider what that means. What does that mean? I understand determinism and fate, but I would describe it maybe in a different way than you. And I don't know if that would be a redefinition of fate or not, but I would determine the definition to be certain things that we can predict that are going to happen, basic assumptions about how the universe operates, how it works and everything, involving everything, involving physics, you know, when we talk about science, and even with people and our reaction, our interaction with everything, animals, people, the earth, everything that we are interacting with, we are able to see certain patterns about how the universe works and everything. And I would describe that as an element of fate, of determinism to some extent, but I wouldn't try to use that as an excuse that I have no free will. You know, because I still think that I have free will, even if I know what could happen if I do this, or if I do that. This is going to happen, or that's going to happen. Knowing that doesn't mean I don't have free will, does it? You know, like, just because I know what I might do doesn't mean I don't have free will, the ability to make that choice when I make that choice. Like, you may know that you may know what I'm going to do, but that doesn't mean that I don't have free will, does it? Just because you know it, it's just a prediction. So I would redefine or define determinism to be prediction, and that it doesn't contradict free will, and therefore a debate between free will and determinism is not necessary. Just because you know what will happen or might happen tomorrow doesn't mean that there was no free will involved with all the people and everything for tomorrow. It just means that you were able to calculate and figure it out. And you may be right or wrong about your prediction about tomorrow. And say if you are right, then you must be very smart. But that doesn't mean that you turned everybody into robots, into computers, and that they're just like animals with no like spirit or soul, or whatever it is that helps us make those choices. You can say that we make choices or we don't. And some people kind of feel like we don't really. And some people feel like, that certain things are going to happen. And maybe they do or maybe they don't. But as far as I know, I don't know. But at the same time, I want to make the most of whatever I do have, because I want to, and I have this desire, and I believe in it, and whatever that means, I don't have to always know everything to know that in the moment I can make the choice to do the right thing. And that's what life is all about. That's what love is all about. Love is all about life, those choices, those experiences, and deciding whether or not you want to be a part of it, whether or not you want to be aligned to the bigger things, whether that be spiritual or not, religious or not. Whatever it is not a limitation, and it shouldn't be feared. It should be embraced. And you can feel fearful at any time, and that's okay. These emotions are all a part of us. When we decide how we want to live, how we want to live life ultimately, like, what do we want to do? What kind of people do we want to be? We can think about that, and it can be scary, and we can be fearful, and then we can let other people decide for us what to think, what to feel, what to do, what kind of clothes to wear, what kind of words to say, where to go, when to go, what kind of work to do, everything. We can let other people decide politically correct stuff, how to be normal, how to do this, how to do that, how to cook, what to do at work, at school, during vacation, and marriage, in dating, in everything and anything in your life. You can let other people decide it because you're scared. Because you don't want to be crazy. Because you're scared that other people are going to call you racist and retarded and stupid and biased and everything else. Or you can embrace the emotions of fear and confusion, and you can admit to those feelings and say to yourself and others that you're scared, but it's okay. I'm afraid. I don't know, but I'm gonna make my own choices in what I want to do, in the person that I want to be. Whether I want to be Oatmeal or not, whether or not people think I'm crazy or not, doesn't really matter, because what do they know? Maybe they know a lot, or maybe they don't. But ultimately, what is life all about but the exploration of your own soul, your own life and love, which are interconnected? That's what life is all about. And if you believe in a lot of fate, then you may miss out. You may miss out on that, and that may get in the way. And that's too bad. That's unfortunate. And for a lot of people, they miss out on the beauty of life and love, joy, hope over dope, joy over circumstances. With oatmeal in my bowl is Jesus in your soul. You know, it's the yin and the yang, whatever you want to call it. Life is incredible, and some people kind of have debates, and they're like, talking about this, and I've seen this for many, many years of my life. I've been in some of those debates, even like in college, after high school, you run into people, and we have these debates, and we try to figure these things out. But it's important to keep a perspective of where you are, at the moment, as you're trying to figure these things out. And when you think about these things, you should ask yourself whether or not it really matters for the moment, whether or not you have free will or not, whether or not things are decided or not. As far as we know, we have free will. We're able to decide. Like if you say hello, you say hello. People like to say hello. People like to eat. People like to do things. So if you like to do things and you do things, is that free will? Is that free will? Hello, Dao. That's a comment. I have a comment on Facebook. Dao says hello. And I say, you have the free will to comment in a live video. And, is that better? Yeah. So, so it's like some people try to argue against some of the freedoms we may have, some of the free will things we may have, choices, decisions. Some people seem to argue for determinism, fatalism, that we might be like robots and animals, that we can't decide really, and we may think we do, but we don't, and that we're kind of like robots or like a program, that people are like programs, like an app. It's like people are apps. We're just gonna, do this and do that. And some people kind of argue that, and they tell other people, hey, yeah, we are animals, we are robots, we're zombies from the Walking Dead, and we will only do this or that, and that's it. And we have no ability to do anything we want, or that we shouldn't or can't or whatever. I wonder a little bit about them, or myself maybe sometimes, but I wonder, can you really believe you don't have free will? Even if you believe that certain things may happen in the future because of the universe or God or something, does that remove the free will that we have each day, even as we go towards that? Or is it that we are able to decide whether or not we're going to be a part of the future, even if the future is knowable? Like, even if you know what's going to happen tomorrow, doesn't mean that there is no free will in that process towards tomorrow. Like, it doesn't remove it, does it? But some people will say, yeah, maybe it does or something, or I'm not really sure. Except to say, I've heard that one guy this morning say that people are like the same as water, as wave, like we're just patterns, like patterns of chemicals, of molecules and atoms, chemically speaking. And people like to study chemicals in science class in school. Chemistry, we study chemistry a little bit, and then you try to apply that to everything in life, including people, and then you start to theorize a little bit, and you say that people are just like chemicals, like H2O, and it's true that most of the body is H2O, water. It's true. Does that mean that water in the ocean can come up and turn into people? Because if we're the same, then why are we not the same? If we are just water and a couple other things, then why are we doing things and the water is not doing things directly? Indirectly maybe, but let's not be too abstract or indirect, because the water, goes into the food and goes into our bodies and helps us, and and everything, but it happens in the person. When the water is in the person, then we do the things. As people, we do things that are unique to everything else, including animals. And animals can come and do a lot of things. They can communicate. But people are here debating. You know, when's the last time you debated with a dog? You can try to talk to your dog, and dogs may talk to other dogs, bark at other dogs. Parrots may copy us a little bit, but are they thinking? Are they able to compare different choices and decide? And is there a difference? And all of this can be a little bit confusing sometimes when we try to compare people to animals. And a lot of people say that there is a difference, and for thousands and thousands of years that has been the conclusion, that there is a difference between people and animals. And you could say, well, all those people must be wrong. But when's the last time an animal told you that they were wrong? When's the last time a monkey came to you and say, yeah, you know, people and animals are the same, and in a few years from now we're going to have the planets of the apes? It probably hasn't happened to you, and it probably won't happen to you. Now, there are things happening like hybrids, where they mix up the DNA between the people and animals. And that's happening. And you could create something in a science laboratory. Whoa. But is that the same? Is that the same as an animal? Because it might as well be a person in the body of an animal, which has been around in the times of the pyramids, supposedly. It seems to be. But back to the main topic of this video. Is there free will? Can you do what you want to do? And some people say, oh, maybe not. Maybe whatever you do is already determined. What does that mean? You mean that somebody else is making you do stuff, and that means you have no fault of your own. That means you have no reward of your own either. You can't do a good thing if you can't do a bad thing. If it's not your fault for a bad thing, then it's not your fault for a good thing either. If it's already determined because of determinism, fatalism, from the stars, God, the universe, Mother Earth, or whatever it is, whatever it is or isn't, how can it be your fault and not your fault at the same time? For the good things and not the bad things, or the bad things and not the good things, whatever that you may believe, it becomes a very important question, philosophically speaking, you know, like, and practically speaking too, for everyday life. Like, can you really spank somebody or punish somebody, discipline somebody, if it's not their fault? Then they didn't really do a bad thing. Like, or maybe they did, but it's not really their fault. If you believe that there is no fault because everything's already determined, which means that there's no free will. Either you believe in free will or you don't, or maybe you believe in a combination of both. But ultimately, you either do or you don't. Either you believe in free will or not. I mean, either you believe that is the determining factor or you don't. And I believe in free will. But there may be things that we know will happen tomorrow, in the future, or the day after tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that, or in 100 years. Some of it may be theory. Some of it may be actual facts, actual history of the future, prophecy, or whatever. It may or may not be this thing or that thing about the future, and it may be determined, like determinism, fatalism. But your what's the word? What's that word? Your relationship with the future is something we should think about more. If you want, there's the free will. If you want to think about it, do you think you have a choice to think about it or not to think about it? Do I have a choice to make this video or not? Do you have a choice to watch this video or not? To leave a comment or not? Free will is all around us. Even if we want to deny it, it's still there. And if you do believe in free will, then how much of it do you believe in? That's the more important question. Do you have the right to decide how you want to live your life? What you want to wear? What you want to say? And is it okay for you to do something that other people disagree with? And do they have the right to bully you if they disagree with you? You know. I have a lot of glare in my glasses, so what can I do to stop the glare? I could do that. Maybe this is better. Yeah, I still got coffee. So here I am. This is probably better. A little bit better. Get your cup of coffee. I like to copy Scott Adams. This is on my mind, and so I like to talk a little bit about what's on my mind. So, a little bit of coffee. Can you see it? Just barely. That black stuff is coffee. A cup of Joe with Uncle Joe. That's me. Joe is what we call coffee. And if you believe in freedoms and free will in doing whatever you want to do, then why would you deny that to other people? Like, for example, if I want to go to the doctor, please let me go to the doctor. If I don't want to go to the doctor, please don't make me go to the doctor. Because if you make me go to the doctor, then you're violating my free will, if there is such a thing, if you believe in that. And I believe in that. And if some people believe in that, are you going to tell other people that they cannot believe in free will? If you believe in free will, for yourself, then would you also believe that other people don't get free will, that only you get free will? I believe in a lot of free will, and I promote freedom and free will. Do you believe in free will? And if you do you believe that other people have free will, or that they should have free will? And if you ever try to tell people that they can't make their own choices, you're kind of taking their free will from them. If I want to go to the doctor, then don't stop me. Please don't stop me, because then you're violating my free will. And if I do not want to go to the doctor, then please don't take me to the doctor. Because if you do, then you're not appreciating me, and you're not honoring my free will, my freedom. And you become a hypocrite. You become a terrible person. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know about what you think it is, but if you believe in freedom, in free will for yourself, then why not for other people too? Why only for you? Because it either is or isn't free will. Whatever that means, it is or isn't. And either you believe in it or you don't. Don't try to mess with that. Oh, you can if you want, but why would you? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you? You can, but why would you? Is that really fair? And do you even believe in the system of fairness or not? But assuming that you do, why would you want to interfere with other people's choices? If you honor choices and decisions in what to do, and what you want to do, then why would you tell other people that they cannot do what they want to do? You know? So I encourage you to ask people what they believe in. And if people believe in freedoms, then they should respect other people's choices a little bit more. Or at least try to. Because why not? Why not is my question. Why not? It's a great question, and it can be used. It can be used all the time for a lot of things. But what do I know? I'm oatmeal near potato, and I want to make this video, because I'm passionate about it, and that's my choice, or it's determined. But I think it's my choice. It's my decision, and this is what I love to do. And then I'm just making a video right now, a live stream about determinism and freedom, free will, And you can go back and think about freedom. What is freedom? What is freedom really? Like, what is freedom, and where does it come from ultimately? Like, how do we have freedom? I like to ask people that question because sometimes we feel like the government gives us freedom. Yeah. And that's what Democrats say. That's what some people in the government say. Sometimes they say, we can give you some freedoms. You just have to vote for us. You just have to give us more money, more tax money, or other things. You have to do this, you have to do that in order to get the freedoms, in order to have this or have that. Sometimes we feel that is how it is because that is the world we live in. And that is the case in a lot of countries for so many years, hundreds and hundreds of years. It doesn't matter if you live in a small country or a big country, if you live in a kingdom, a castle, I don't know, like some kind of third world country or the best country in the world, whether you live in America or Vietnam or South Africa, we run into a lot of the same things, similar things, including our perception of freedom, which comes from older people. As we grow up, we learn a lot from older people, parents, teachers, people in the government, neighbors. The first 20 years of our lives, we see freedom as something out there, but it's mostly something that other people give us a little bit, and maybe they give us more freedom as we get older, as we grow up. No matter what country we're from, no matter what country we live in, our relationship with freedom is limited as far as we know. We always feel like that. And we create our definition of freedom from that experience, from that relationship. And that's all we know. As far as we know, that's all we know. And we don't question that because it's too uncomfortable to question that. And we get distracted a little bit too much and we move on and we never go back to question that or to think about that. To think about what is freedom really? What is freedom? Because as far as we know, freedom is a thing that our parents give us, our mommy and our daddy and our teachers and people in the government, are the police officers and maybe some other people too sometimes. And it's something that we are lucky to get, maybe as long as we are nice enough to our mommy and daddy and our teachers and the government in whatever country we're in. And that is our definition of freedom, and we think that's all it is and that's all it could ever be. But is that really what freedom is? Like, is that really what freedom is? It's something that other people give us. So where do they get it? Do they get it from other people, from before them? And where do those people get it? Did they get it from older people? And where do those older people get it from? You know, where does freedom come from? So is it just something that government gives us? Is it something just that what our parents give us? And is it something that they can take away from us? Is that what freedom is? Or does it come from something else? Does it come from God? Does it come from the universe? What is freedom and where does it come from? I encourage you to ask other people that, because it's something that people don't think about enough. I promise. I encourage you to ask other people, where does freedom come from? What is it and where does it come from? Because when we're little kids, we don't really think about it a lot. And we just kind of feel like, freedom is something that the government gives us, that our parents give us, and we don't really have a complete understanding that it's a lot bigger than that it comes from the universe, or it comes from God, or, something deeper, something more eternal. And ultimately, we know that. We know that in the back of our minds. We know that already, but we bury that all the time, and we forget about it. We ignore the fact that freedom is what life is all about. Life and love is all interconnected to and with and of free choices, freedom, free will, all that stuff. The experience of life is there for a reason. It's not an accident. Robots don't really feel, as far as I know, but people do, and there's a reason for that. Even though robots can say, I feel, but do they really? You know what I'm saying? Do they really? So, there was this guy I knew, we'll call him Mr. Wolf, Mr. Wolfie, and so some years ago he might have had something like some kind of liver cancer, and after some years he died. So that's a little bit sad. I don't like it when people die. I don't like it when people have cancer, but it's important to understand and realize that there are. Tell you a story. So I'm trying to tell you a story. Like, say, imagine that you had some kind of cancer. Like, there was a guy named Wolf, maybe, and let's just try to imagine that it happened to you. And what would you do if you had this kind of problem? Like, say, you had some kind of cancer, like a liver cancer, for example. And what do you do? And some people might say to you, well, yeah, you have to go to the doctor. You gotta go to these special people to help you with your liver, and maybe you have to go through chemotherapy, get the chemo. And a lot of people kind of talk about it as the normal thing, but is that the only option? And if nobody tells you that there is an alternative, that you can get a second opinion from doctors and people, herbalists, other kinds of people, other kinds of doctors and everything, then you may not know. You may not know because you don't know, because nobody told you, or maybe you didn't ask the right questions. And in life, where we're presented these choices to decide how. So I'm trying to tell a story. Imagine if you had some kind of problem with your liver, and the doctors say you have to do this and you have to do that, but how do they know? And is there a second opinion? Maybe you have to get chemo, or maybe you just have to do some fasting, and maybe you just have to clean it out, because you know what a liver is, and you know in the body. And if you understand the relationship between the different parts of your body and how the body works together interchangeably, maybe not interchangeably, but interconnectively, then maybe it all makes sense. Then all you gotta do is do things more naturally. Like, there's a lot of natural remedies that work very well, and it's very effective, more so than other stuff like chemo, for example. That's just one example. There's others, but even just the concept of chemo is very, very dangerous. It's like you might as well just go through a fire. You might as well just go through an oven. You might as well just put yourself inside a microwave and hope that it fixes you and your cancer, liver cancer, or other kinds of cancer. And there's lots of different kinds of cancer. And it's basically the same kind of thing if you think about it. Maybe not exactly the same, but it's basically the same kind of thing. And that's basically what chemo is. Chemo is kind of like a microwave. And I saw this one guy, and he was basically doing chemo at his house, and he was from the Ukraine. I was at his house in New York, and he ended up dying like just a few months later or so. It seems like in 2005, and it was a great family, very nice. Andrew Morose, and here is a game from the Nintendo 64. It's called Mario 64, and I was playing it a lot when I was about 12 years old. And I was playing it a lot for the next few years after that. In 96, 97, 98. And I got all the stars, beat all the levels, about 128 stars, and I was playing it for hours and hours, probably hundreds of hours. This game, Mario Kart 64, maybe some others. I'm really into Nintendo, and these are the choices that I make, and we make choices like what kind of games are we going to play, and what kind of games do we like, and what kind of music are we going to listen to, and that's what I'm talking about in this video. And some people kind of feel like there is a lot of fate, and that it doesn't really matter what we do because of the future. And I say, well, the future may be knowable. We may know what's going to happen tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the freedom to be a part of it, or not to be a part of the good stuff and the bad stuff of whatever's going to happen tomorrow and in the future in general. Whether we know it or not, whether or not we understand it completely or not, do we have any responsibility for the good things and the bad things that we do or don't do, what we say or don't say, and everything else? Is there responsibility? Like, is there accountability? Should there be some integrity in the character, in the morality of people? Is there any objectivity, or is everything subjective? In subjectivity and relativism, is there any objectivity? Does it really matter? Is there any morality to the world and everything? Those are the ageless questions, the timeless questions that people debate about. But maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but as far as I know, there is. At least that's what I want to believe, and I believe that I have the freedom to believe that if I want. And if you respect free will for everybody, then you should let me believe what I want to believe, even if I might be wrong. because isn't that what life is all about? And so I was trying to make an example of trying to decide what to do in life. Like, if you have a big problem and you don't know what to do, you're going to go to people. Maybe they know, maybe they can help you, or maybe they don't. But ultimately, it should be your decision what to do in life, in the good times and the bad times. Even if you have a very terrible thing happen, like cancer or some kind of problem, you're very, very sick and you don't know what to do, you can talk to people. So I'm trying to make a video about free will and determinism, and every while I lose connection of the live stream on Facebook, and I have to stop. I have to stop talking for a second. I don't have to, I guess, but the video stops. The video stops streaming live. The feed stops. And that reminded me of the difference between free will and determinism or fate or all the other stuff that I was talking about earlier in this video. It's like there's a lot of things happening at the same time, and it's important to keep yourself in some perspective of where you are in the universe and everything. And we don't know everything. As far as I know, we don't know everything, and therefore we just gotta remember that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta remember that. Okay, Mr. Ahmed Abdel Ratzik says hi there, and I'm talking about what is free will, and do we have free will? Can you do what you want to do and everything? And is there fate? Is there determinism? How much is there? And I was just thinking about that, especially as the live stream stops, and I can feel like a victim, or I can feel like there's nothing I can do. Maybe from a limited perspective, I may think, well, I can't do anything about it. Like, there's a problem. For example, the video stops, and that's a problem. And it just randomly stops because of the connection I have with the internet, with the Wi-Fi. And so then, I'm not connected to the internet anymore, and so then I don't have the video, the live stream anymore, and it stops, like on Facebook, for example. And so that is a problem, maybe, and say maybe there is nothing I can do about it. And some people believe that we can't do anything that is beyond our control, like that, for example, that internet issue, that thing with Wi-Fi where it comes in and out, and maybe I can't do anything about that. But does that mean I have no free will? And that is the same thing we can think about for the future. Like, we can apply that same thing for everything else. Like, what happens in the future? Like, what's going to happen tomorrow? Do we know? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe we can predict it. Maybe we can guess. Maybe we can calculate a little bit, or maybe totally, about what's going to happen tomorrow, in the future, and everything. And maybe some people know, or maybe God knows. Maybe it's in the Bible. Maybe it's in some old books. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it is a little bit, maybe not totally, maybe completely, maybe partly. We can argue and debate about the specifics of what may or may not happen in the future. But does that mean that you are a robot? Just because you know what's going to happen, does that mean you're no longer a human being to think, therefore I am? Who is that guy that said that? Was it Aristotle or Plato or Socrates? One of those three guys said, I think, and therefore I am. But there's a lot of philosophy out there in the debate about free will and determinism, or just, predicting the future, or whatever that it may be. But does that mean you have no responsibility, no accountability? Like, do you ultimately believe in, well, that the more you know, the less you know, actually the more you know, the more you know, but you feel like the less you know because you know more about the stuff that you don't know. It's kind of like a paradox. And here I am making a live video, and I had to stop, or it stopped because the Wi-Fi stopped, and that's kind of like something that goes beyond my control. Kind of maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But that's just an example I'm using for a second. But I really believe in freedom and in respecting the freedom of other people. But some people, maybe progressive liberals, and maybe some people kind of don't really respect a difference in opinions and more than that too, but they will shut you down, and they have been. And this is what I've been talking about this week in my videos. I'm trying to tell people, like we're in a war, and we're in a transitional period in human history. human history and mankind history. Like, it's incredible the things that are happening all around the world, especially these past few years. It's 2018, February 24, Saturday. It's about 12:30 or 1. It's about 1:30 right now. So have I been talking for an hour? Maybe so. And there's a lot of things happening, and I say that because I want you to understand that whenever you think you really understand a thing enough, I encourage you to stand back and to reconsider that, because sometimes you may not know all the different sides to a story, and there's always more you need to know. And so please don't try to be open-minded as much as you can. I encourage you to be as open-minded as possible, but it's up to you ultimately whether or not you want to be open-minded to different opinions, to different points of views and everything. And if you believe in freedom, then please don't try to take that away from other people. Or you can if you want, because you have the freedom to do that, but why would you? Why would you give yourself something but then tell everybody else that they cannot have it too? I don't like that. You can do that if you want, but don't tell people that you're not doing it if you're doing it. If you love freedom, then why would you try to take it from other people and tell other people that they don't have the right to their own opinion, to think and feel and say whatever they want to say and everything? I believe determinism is where we were placed on the planet, coming from the cosmos. We are placed at a certain time, and at a certain time from that point we are bound to the will of our parents. We are afforded this will when we become disciplined enough to receive it. So Jamil Caldwood, I'm reading your comment on we are back. We are back, and I'm trying to read the comment, and maybe I will read the comment again. The Wi-Fi stopped and now it's back. Jamil Caldwood wrote, I believe determinism is where we were placed on the earth, coming from the cosmos. We are placed at a certain address at a certain time. From that point, we are bound to the will of our parents. We are afforded the will when we become disciplined enough to receive it. All right, that was your comment, and now my reply is that I understand what you're writing, and you may use those words, those definitions if you want, because basically that kind of is what is, as far as we know. This is our perspective that certain things happen. Like you said, that we are born in the world at a certain time, and that it's not our choice. I know that our life is what it is, that we cannot decide who our parents are. But after we are born, do we have free will? As you grow up, do you make choices? How many choices do you make? How many decisions do you make as you grow up? You may not have the say in when you are born, where you are born. And we are back. And I am saying that I agree that we may not decide when we are born, where we are born, and everything like that. But can we decide what kind of people we are after that? The term of determinism tends to be more than just how we are born, and that we don't decide who our parents are. Determinism goes into the future of what's going to happen, and that's the extension of what it is, and not just about the past of things we can't control, but about the future. And it seems to be very problematic, pretty problematic. So I was just reading a comment earlier from Jamila Callwood on Facebook, and I don't know if I got the audio completely or not, or if it's totally spotty with the Wi-Fi we have. I don't know what the Wi-Fi is doing exactly from the Comcast Xfinity in Shelton, Washington. So I don't really know what's going on with that. But does that mean I have no free will? Some people kind of argue that there is no free will, or there's not a lot of free will, that there's some limitations. And it may be true that there are limitations, because there are things that go beyond your control, including who your parents are. Obviously, we should all be able to agree that we cannot control who our parents are. There are certain things in our lives that we don't really have control of. But I would argue, how do we know what we have control over? Maybe we know some of it, of what our choices are and what our choices are not. We may know sometimes, but we should not trust in that all the time. There is a lot of freedom in understanding how the world works. And you can feel like you are a victim. Or not, if you don't want to. But it's up to you, I think. Unless if you think you don't, that's still your choice. Here are some pictures. Maybe I should try to review some of the pictures and show you some of the pictures here. What is that? What is that? It's my brother and a ham radio. I think Wi-Fi would be better with a ham radio, shortwave stuff. And some people are working on that, but that's great. There's a lot of things we can work on, like we can work on farms, and we can have better lives when we understand the generality of how the world works, how the universe works. There are some principles that are timeless that help a lot of people. Some of the things are undeniable to a lot of people. It withstood the test of time, and if you have not taken the time to consider wisdom, then why not? Why not is my question. Because you can see these traditions, these family values, Christian values, the golden rule, the 10 commandments. you can see it. You can see these things, these principles, these ideas of morality all around the world. And it works a lot more than the lack therein, you know, and if you agree with that, if you believe in those things, then why not trace it back to the source of where it all came from? If it works, then what's the problem? You know, like, if it's an incredible thing, then either you believe in free will or you don't, or you don't. Like, either you believe in some freedoms or you don't. Maybe you believe in a little bit, or maybe you believe in a lot. But if you really believe in some justice and some morality in what we should do as humans and what we should not do, then why not find out where it comes from? Why not find out the foundation to what is right, what is wrong, what works, what doesn't work, what is the foundation, what is the principle to life, where does it come from? If it works, then how can we put it to use? Practically speaking, how do we apply wisdom, principles, things that work and have worked for thousands of years all around the world? How do we know they work? We know they work because they have been working for so long in so many places. That's how we know. We see it, and it's passed on, and it creates results. We also see the contrast of when we go away from those principles, the opposite happens. The opposite of growth and a lot of good stuff, you know, a lot of good stuff. We can see that time after time after time. There are so many examples in history, in different countries, in different religions and cultures and traditions all around the world. And we can talk about each one if you want to, and that's what you can ask other people if you haven't already. You can ask yourself and ask other people, what happened? What happened here? What happened there? One good example of wisdom applied is Israel. There's a lot you can learn from the country named Israel. If you haven't already taken the time to look at it, you should, because it's amazing and it's remarkable and it's better than you can ever imagine. It's beyond comprehensive. Maybe actually we could probably comprehend a lot more than we know at the moment, but you can see that sometimes Israel is like a desert. It's like a desert. There's nothing there. In history, there were times nothing was there. Nothing was growing. It was like a desert, and it's just hot and no green stuff, no plants and trees, or not a lot. No. The farming was terrible, kind of like in some places in Africa. Big difference, big contrast between some places in Africa and Israel, the people of God. Go there. They go to Israel, and great things happen. And when they're not there, terrible things happen, whether you believe in God or not. you cannot deny that when those people are there, great things happen. When they're not there, bad things happen. Historically speaking, that's what happened. Good stuff happened, bad things happen. Good things happen when those people were there. Bad things happen when they were not there. Whether you believe in them or God or anything else, doesn't matter. It's not relevant. It's not relevant, and I would encourage you to tell other people that certain things are not really, really, really relevant, even if you want to believe that they are. Maybe I guess you have the free will to decide what is relevant or not, but it's not really practical. I mean, as far as I know, as far as a lot of people know, because there are certain principles that work and certain things that don't work, and there are reasons why certain things work a little bit better than other things, and it's incredible to get the backstory to philosophy, to principles, to things that work for hundreds and hundreds of years. And there were a lot of things that were better in the past. So many things. And we forget that because we don't take the time to look at the things that work. We are stuck in the nice, cool things we have, like techno. We get lost in what we have, like technology, Facebook, and some of the other things. We become very distracted, and technology and all these other things are incredible, but there are more incredible things out there, and that is the foundation that technology is built upon. You cannot have a house without a foundation. Well, you can have a house, but it may tumble and fall eventually, like Rome, like the British Empire. Things fall. Oh, that the foolish man builds his house on sand. You want to build your house and your world on a rock, and you can do a lot better when you do that, and you take the time to figure out what is the foundation to everything. And we've been distracted so long, for so many years. We're getting lost and distracted, and if we want to recover and we want to get back to living a better life, we can figure out what is the foundation that technology and the modern world is built upon, because it's better that way, because that is the foundation. That's how things work, as far as I know. That's what I believe, and I don't know about you, but I think it's better that way. And practically speaking, based on my experience in my life, that's what I've noticed, that going back to the foundation is the best thing you can ever do, as far as I know. That's what I want to believe, and that's the free will that I have, and I believe in it. You may not believe in any free will, or maybe you don't believe in a lot of free will, or enough free will, but that's what I got. And I believe that if I want to have a better life, I want to go back and figure out where does it come from, the principles and the foundation for morality, for how I live, for the technology, for the science, for the modern world that we live in the developed countries to some extent, and as it spreads around through globalization, not globalism, but globalization. There's a difference, but as we try to figure out what that is, what all that is, and what it means and everything, we can partake in it a little bit better if we understand what it is, what all of it is, and where does it come from. And if we want to have better lives, we can figure it out. We can go back and figure out where does it come from. We can ask ourselves and ask other people, where does it come from? What does it really matter? Does it really matter? Like, we can do that if we want. And I would encourage you and other people to think about that, to talk about it, because that's been the value of looking back. The history of the world is there for a reason. Otherwise, why do we have it? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we have the ability in our brains to look back and try to figure out what's going on and everything? You know, why do we care what's going on and everything? You know, and that's what I encourage you to think about, even as we're debating about fate and destiny and everything else. Like, life is very, very special, and it's very, very cool, and it's very, very exciting, and I learn more about myself and other people around me, people that I care about, and everybody in general, as I try to build a foundation based on the foundation that other people have built, that is not entirely relative, that is, you know, a little bit better than that, a little bit more eternal, unmovable, unshakable kind of thing. There are these things out there that are great to know and understand, and when you take all that time to understand them, your life becomes a oatmeal thing. And that's why I call myself oatmeal, because it's a foundational concept of food, and also in philosophy and everything else. I use oatmeal as an illustration for life and everything, and that's why I talk about it all the time. When I say potato, I'm talking about how people just kind of sit around and they kind of grow like a cancer, kind of like potatoes grows when you leave it alone in a dark room. A plant comes out of the potato, and some people are called couch potatoes because they just sit around and they don't do anything, and I find that to be kind of funny. But I want to make a contrast between cool people and boring people, and the cool people are the oatmeal people. Oatmeal people are very, very cool, and the potato people are not very cool and everything. And so I like to joke around a little bit, but I'm being serious at the same time. And I want to say that you potato and I'm an oatmeal. I'm oatmeal and you potato, and I feel that there is so much life and love and joy and laughter and contagious laughter and joy and foundation in life when you find out what it's all about, and where does it come from, what is life all about, and where does it come from, where does these tools and principles really come from, and how does it make the world a better place, and how does it make it so much better than other things, and why is there so much contrast between the Western world and everybody else, the Eastern world, and what is the thing about the IQ, and is it nature or nurture? There's a lot of questions out there concerning philosophy and civilization, and when you take the time to get to the bottom of it and try to put it into perspective, into the context, the content of everything, of overall history, you gain an understanding that is very, very incredible. But not everybody's going to do that. A lot of people don't really do that a lot. And most of the time we kind of run away from doing that because we are busy, or we don't really feel like doing that, or we're tired, or whatever that it might be. But most of the time we're kind of just tired because we're not really taking care of ourselves, because we don't really know how to really take care of ourselves, and that's very unfortunate. But if you understand a little bit of history and a little bit of natural remedies and things about taking care of yourself and trying to understand life and love and eternal principles, then you are above the rest. You're above the rest, and you're amazing, you're special, and you're one in a million, because there are so many people that don't take the time to think about thinking, to think about philosophy, to think about history, to think about whether or not they're stuck in fatalism or not. A lot of people don't do that, and if you're listening, then you are one of the few, and you're very, very special, and you have a job to do in this world, because if you can actually understand what I'm saying, then you are amazing. And there are some people out there, and I know you're probably one of them. I don't know who you are at the moment, probably, but I still know you're there, because I believe in that, and I've seen it happen, because I've watched other people talk about amazing things, and they talk about stuff, and I understand them. Therefore, I know that it continues to outflow. You have great stuff, and that's the concept of love. Love is something that cannot be contained, and has to be spread to other people and everything. And love cannot be selfish. It cannot. Just look at 1 Corinthians 13. It talks about what love is, and love is not selfish, and that means it's overflowing, it's amazing, and you just want to share it. Love is all about a commitment to grace and justice. Those two things are incredible to look at, because justice is all about what you may deserve, what needs to happen for people and for everything, but an emphasis on people. Justice is all about right and wrong, and how if you do a good thing, you get a good thing, you get a good result, a good reward. You reap what you sow, and if you do a bad thing, then you get a bad thing. You get punished. You get the consequences, and that is a universal, eternal concept and system that is unbreakable and unstoppable, and is happening no matter what you believe in or not. That is happening even if you may not see it happen all the time, because at times it feels like we are getting away with murder, that bad people can do bad things, and then nobody's going to stop them, and that justice will not be served in those situations in life. And we see it all around us through history, all around the world. We kind of feel like there is no justice when people die, when good people die, or when the bad thing happens, this happened or that happened. We always feel that there is no justice, or there's not enough justice. But justice is there, and justice is a good thing, and it comes from love, whatever love is. And love is not just an emotion, it's not just a feeling, it's not just lust or whatever, it's not just a physical thing. It's much deeper than that, and it's the root and base of everything. And a lot of people forget that, or they don't really know that completely. But love is justice, about what is right and what is wrong, and getting what is due to you. You reap what you sow, and you get what is right or wrong, depending on a lot of things. But at the same time, love is also grace, which includes mercy and compassion, maybe a few things like that. But basically, grace and mercy are the other side of what love is, and that's all about getting things you don't deserve, or not getting what you do deserve. Mercy is all about getting what you don't deserve. I mean, actually not getting what you deserve, not getting the punishment you get, what you would get. Like, basically, like, mercy is when you don't get punished for the bad thing you did. And grace is all about getting something you did not earn. that you did not work for. You don't deserve it, but you get it. That's grace. And life is better when you try your best to give some grace and mercy to people as much as you can. Like, it's important, but there probably should be some limit to that. And it really depends on your role in the world and everything. Whether or not you are supposed to give people justice or grace. That's always a question. It's always been a question that I've had for myself and for everybody. Like, mostly for myself, I always asked myself, am I supposed to be focused on grace or justice? Am I supposed to run around and be the judge and executioner? Am I supposed to go around and condemn people and say you're gonna burn and go to hell or whatever because you did a bad thing, or you did a bunch of bad things and you're a terrible person and everything? Those are questions some people struggle with. And perhaps that is one extreme where you're yelling at people because they do terrible, terrible things, sins, transgressions, iniquities, this, terrible crimes, this, murder, theft, lying, adultery, purgatory, what's the word, purgatory, and treason, and just think of all these, espionage, and, things that Clinton do, the things that Soros do, Rothschild, Rockefeller, Oprah, at Disney, Alphabet and Google, YouTube, Facebook, other corporations and countries and secret organizations and things that some people don't really know about, but you can see it, or you will know it one of these days. But sometimes when bad stuff happens to us or to other people, we really want justice to come and fall on them. And we become very, 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 very emotional. Very, very emotional. We can feel a sense of justice, and that justice needs to happen. We don't want grace to come to our enemies. I encourage you to reconsider your relationship to grace and mercy, that part of love. It's not to deny justice completely. It is, however, to emphasize on grace. That's what I try to do. I try to emphasize on grace, and I feel my life is better when I try to focus on what I can do and what I can give and what I can be happy for and what I can do to help other people and help myself in the world, regardless of whether or not they agree with me with everything or not, which is a very difficult thing to do all the time. And we can totally be divided with so many things, so many things. There are people dividing us, people in the world, too many times. Throughout the course of history, these people have been dividing us. There's these forces, demons, all sorts of things and people and stuff we don't even know about, dividing. They're dividing us, but do we have to be divided no matter where you are, no matter who you are? Like, what divides us? That's a good question. Is it racism, sexism, bigotry? There are the race wars, the gender wars, between male and female. Feminism, sexism. There is wars between like religions and cultures and philosophy and countries and between different families and communities, and you can see all of that. You can always see that. But is there any way we can unite is the question. We're always kind of like asking those questions of how to unite and come together and have some peace, like between Israel and Palestine, for example. Now that one is difficult for some people to understand, I guess. And it's kind of scary to talk about. It's okay to be scared, but some people just don't understand what is that all about. What is that all about? It's like, what is that all about? But we understand division, even sibling wars, sibling rivalry. There's a lot of that going on. Always, historically. It started out with like Cain and Abel. Cain killed his brother Abel. He was able to kill his brother Abel, and that must have been a pretty terrible division and sibling rivalry. And it might have been the first. I don't know exactly, but we know that there are always things dividing us. But should we judge a person by the color of their skin or by the content of their character, like Martin Luther King Jr. said in the 1960s, 1970s? That guy, that black guy who said, "I have a dream." He was in America, and he was talking about that in the 1960s, in the 1970s. That was that about 50 or 60 years ago. And they killed him. They killed Martin Luther King Jr., that guy who said, "I have a dream" and stuff. And he talked about, what really matters is the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And we really can come together more, maybe not completely, and there's always going to be separation, and there probably should be, and I would argue that, and maybe I won't talk about that right now. I'm going to go right now, but there are reasons for coming together and for being separate at the same time. Even our bodies are divided and connected at the same time. Like different organs are connected to other organs, but they're also separate too, because there are connections from different organs. You have blood, you have veins, the big blood canals. They're like canals, they're like rivers in the body, but they all have walls. The blood travels through these tunnels in your bodies, and the tunnels are walls. And so not only is your skin a wall, but there are walls all over your body. And so there is tons of barriers in the body, and that's something that you might have seen in Black Panther, the movie. At the end, he said that the fools build barriers and the wise people build bridges. And bridges are good, and barriers and walls are good, and it's important to understand that you need a little bit of both, and you got to be smart to know when you need what. And there's a lot of division. There's a lot of division, but division is not always bad, but it can be bad. But it's kind of like a paradox, and that's what life is all about. There's a lot of things happening at the same time. That's why I always say that there's a lot of things happening at the same time, because it's important to understand your relationship if you want to, if you believe in free will and everything. And that's what I'm trying to talk about and everything. And I think I'm gonna go end this video now, but really like to talk about this, and I feel like I'm just getting to the point where I feel comfortable enough to talk at a pretty fast speed for some people, but for me, I really enjoy kind of like talking about a lot of things. But the faster I talk, the more I might say the wrong words, and sometimes I want to emphasize some words, and then I slow down and say it a little bit slowly, and then I want to repeat my words sometimes. And that's what free will is all about. And there's a lot of grace and justice in the world, and my relationship with it kind of comes and goes, and it's kind of exciting, kind of boring. Not really boring. Sometimes you kind of feel like you're bored and stuff, but at the same time, you got to be patient. You got to learn how to be patient and wait for opportunities and everything, because life is full of opportunities and a lot of good things and grace and everything, and it's all there, and it's a big puzzle, and you can be a part of it, whether you believe in enough free will or not. You cannot deny that it's contagious to have joy over circumstances and hope over dope, because it will consume you and transform you when you get to the bottom, to the foundation, to the source of eternal principles, and what it's all about love and grace and justice and everything else, what life and love is all about. It's amazing when you get to the bottom of it and you understand the meaning and everything, because there is purpose and meaning for you and for me, and some people kind of say, and they don't believe it, but I believe it, and you can do it if you want, and it's incredible, and it consumes you like a fire, a good fire, not a bad fire like chemo. It's incredible, and it's great. Now I'm original Oatmeal, so it's incredible. And you talk about it, I believe in free will. It's incredible. It's great. I love free will, and I may know what's going to happen tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that I can't be a part of it or not be a part of whatever is going to happen for everything, for tomorrow, for the future, for everything. And it's incredible, and great things are happening, and you can be a part of it, unless if you believe that you can't because of fate. But I believe in destiny, and it's incredible, and it makes life a whole lot more enjoyable. Man, it's great. You gotta get some hope over dope and joy over circumstances. I'm Oatmeal, and you're a potato.